Hey everybody, this is Robert Burke. Welcome to episode number 36 of When to Play. Today we are going to be looking at an older game. I know I tend to be way behind on a lot of these games, but I'm going to do it anyway because I enjoy this game very much. It came out originally in 2006, I believe. I have the version from Mayday Games. And it's called Pillars of the Earth. It's based on a fantastic novel of the same name, which is all about building cathedrals back in like the 12th century. So in this game, it's a Euro game. It includes card drafting. There's two main portions really of the game: a card drafting portion and then a worker placement portion as well, but it's got a couple of unique twists that make it very interesting that I'll talk about later. But first, you'll see, I usually talk about the art first. You'll see the artwork is, so you can see that. It's very, very well done all the way through. The cards are very nice. The art is consistent throughout. The component quality is very good. There's a lot of wood bits in here, and I'll show you them in a minute, because there's a ton of stuff in here. But it's got a large, fully illustrated rule book that is very well done. If you are a hobby gamer, you'll have no trouble learning this game at all. It's really kind of a medium, lightweight Euro game. It's probably somewhere in between Stone Age and Caylus. Somewhere, although it doesn't have the same kind of math that required for a game like Stone Age, though it has more things you can do than a game like Stone Age. It's a little more complex in that regard, but you don't have to do that constant math that you would have to do in like a Stone Age or a Troyes game. So in that respect, it's easier. If you are going to play this, or if you are not a hobby gamer, if you are looking for something for your family and you've only played games like Monopoly, the standard kind of American games like Monopoly and Scrabble and stuff like that, I think it's a game you can try. I think it's a game you might really enjoy. I think it can be used as a gateway game. It definitely can be used as a gateway game if somebody who understands the rules and knows this game teaches it. All right. If you're playing with people who haven't played it before and you haven't played it before and you are not a hobby gamer, then I think you can do it, but you're going to have to spend some time in the rules because there's going to be a lot of things that are brand new to you in this game. But the rules, if you can spend the time to read through the rules, they're very well laid out, and I think you can do it. So I think it's definitely worth a try, whether you're a gamer or even if you don't consider yourself a board gamer. I think it's definitely worth trying out. So let's look at the board. I want to show you the board. It's it's really nicely illustrated. You've got this view here of the whole town where the cathedral is being built. Let me see if I can get it on here so you could actually see it. And you'll see these little silver round spaces. That's where the worker placement aspect of this game comes in. You are going to be placing these little wooden master builders of your color, and you draw these from a bag. But before you think that's too random, I'm going to talk about that later. They've really got an ingenious mechanic that's done down here that kind of makes those random draws more palatable for those who don't like random elements in their games, especially Euro gamers who like a game to be complete strategy. They handle that very well. There's a gold track on the bottom, so all players will track gold here. And then there's victory point track around the top where you will track your victory points. So on here, there's going to be cubes, different resource cubes. There are going to be cards. There's different event cards and privilege cards that get placed on here. In the middle is the cathedral that you are going to be building. And you do that with these wooden blocks. You actually physically build the cathedral, a new piece every turn. And then there are there's some other things on here, places where you can place your master builder so you avoid having to pay taxes, or you can avoid negative events, or you can maybe hire a couple more workers to help you collect resources. So there's a lot of options on the board of what you can do on your turn, which is a good thing. But also good is every single item here has a number. So when you resolve everything at the end of a turn, you do it in order from 1 all the way down to, I think it's 12 or 13 is the last one. So you just go one step at a time through the whole board, resolving each area on the board. So that makes it very easy, especially, like I said earlier, for new players or people who are new to these kind of Euro themed games. The board makes it much easier because it's numbered like that. There are different cards. Some of the cards have colors on the back, and these are starting craftsmen for each player based on the color that you pick. So the game has all these craftsmen. Basically, this is the way you are going to convert resources that you collect with your workers into victory points as you're working on the cathedral. So every player is playing a different builder who they're all working to build this massive cathedral, right? It's going to take a long time to build this thing. So you are trying to gain the most victory points, the most prestige by contributing the most to the cathedral. And you do that through the use of these craftsmen who are working on the cathedral for you, and they are converting stuff to victory points, which represent really how much work you've put into the cathedral. So this one, for example, is a stone cutter. I don't know if you could see that. The stone cutter, you'll see on the bottom there are 2 cubes, stone cubes. The stone cutter converts 2 stone cubes into 1 victory point. That's on the arch at the end. That's the victory point symbol. And he can do that 4 times per turn. All right. So the game really does have a good sense of progression, that you are improving your little engine to build the cathedral. It progresses because as each turn comes up, you're going to be drafting and gaining new craftsmen who do a better job, right? They are more experienced. They are more costly. So, you might get a stone cutter in the future, or somebody who can do that. He might be able to convert 1 stone into 1 victory point, or 1 stone into 2 victory points. He might be able to do it more times per round. So as each round goes by, you're going to be trying to get enough money so you can buy better craftsmen, or be able to place there's 2 craftsmen on the board every round as well, where you can get them for free if you place there first. So you're going to try to upgrade your craftsmen so you can be more efficient in converting those resources into victory points. So one thing about the game that you do need to know is there is a lot of setup here. All right, every round there are 4 new craftsmen that come into play, and that's how you time this game. You time this game with these craftsman cards. You shuffle up these 4 cards for each turn, and you play 6 rounds exactly. So for every round, you need to shuffle these separate cards together and place those up there. Then you need to take a whole bunch of these resource cards, which show you on them, like this one, for example, requires 3 workers. Every player is going to have their own color meeple here, which represents workers. So if you take this card, you have to put 3 workers on the forest, and when it gets to the forest area of the board, you are going to collect 2 wood. So these cards are the same, and there's going to be a bunch of these. You're going to take 2 of these out every round, shuffle the remaining ones up, and put them on the bottom of the board. In addition, you're going to take those 4 craftsmen that come into play. You're going to shuffle those up. You're going to flip 2 of them face up on the bottom underneath the board with the resource cards, and the other 2 on spaces on the board that are reserved for those 2 cards. So those 4 cards every round are going to be split between being on the board and under the board. The cards under the board, the 2 craftsmen and the resources, it's going to be a draft. So at the beginning of each round, starting with the first player, they are going to take one of the resource cards on the bottom. Their cost for taking a resource is the number of workers required here. All right. So if I wanted to get this 3 wood, I would place 6 workers. Every player is going to start with 12 workers. And there's a place on the board where you can get 2 more. But if you get to a point, and you're going to get to a point, probably, definitely, some point in the game where you don't have, you have workers left, but not enough to buy what's left on the resource cards, then there's an area on the board called the wool mill where you can put your remaining workers, or you can put them all there if you want from the start, and that's going to get you 1 gold for every worker that you place there. So wages for you to gain income. So the craftsman, if you draw a new craftsman, however, you're going to have to pay gold. So the craftsmen have a gold value on the top left-hand side, and if you want to draft one of those, you have to pay the gold, and then you can get that craftsman and add it to your collection of craftsmen. Now, you can only have 5 craftsmen total. So later in the game, you're going to be faced with decisions where, you know, I'm going to update this craftsman, but I have to get rid of one. Which one am I going to get rid of? And that's further complicated because there are 3 craftsmen that everybody starts with that has this exclamation point on the top, and you cannot get rid of those. Well, you can get rid of them, but if you do get rid of them, there's going to be a negative effect. And everybody gets a card that tells you what those effects are. So, for example, if you get rid of your mortar mixer, you can no longer earn victory points with masons, which is a certain type of craftsman that will keep coming up. That's not good. If you don't have a stone cutter, you cannot buy stone or sell stone in the resource market. So that's a negative impact to you as well. So there's some good decision points there as far as which craftsman you're going to pick, what strategy are you going to employ to maximize the victory points that you bring in, and how are you going to get what you need to employ that strategy. So it's good stuff. All right, so after everybody drafts their cards for the round, then you're going to go into this worker placement part of the game. And this is the part that I think is really kind of cool and separates it from a lot of other games. And again, this is where this thing on the bottom of the board comes in play. So there's going to be a bag. And this bag, all the master builder pawns of every player is going to go into that bag. Every player gets 3 of these. So they're going to go into the bag, and they're going to be drawn out randomly by the start player. However, on this little thing down here, if you place it there, there is a marker that goes here. You'll push that up, and the first drawn pawn will go here. Now, that blue player now has a choice. They can place this pawn on any open space, and if you're the first player, you have your choice. You can get the very best space or the space that you need the most if they draw you out of the bag first. However, you're going to have to pay 7 gold to do that, which is quite expensive. All right, or you can pass. All right, so when you pass, the next pawn is drawn out of the bag, and it goes into the next space, and the marker pushes up. So the second person drawn has to pay 6 gold. So every time a pawn is drawn from the bag, the cost of placing that pawn goes down by 1 every single time a pawn is pulled, whether it's placed or not. So it gets cheaper. So you find yourself maybe not wanting to get pulled out too early, but you want to get a pawn pulled early enough where you can have the first choice and not have it be too costly. So that's a really cool kind of way to balance the random element of drawing pawns from a bag. You have the option to place first, but you're going to have to pay for it. So I like that, and it works really well in this game. It's an enjoyable part of the game. It is kind of fun pulling randomly out of the bag and seeing where you fall, and then making that decision every single time. All right, do I want to spend that gold and place there because I really want that spot, or do I want to risk it? You know, and you can see how much gold everybody has too. So if you know they don't have enough gold to pay, then that you might want to risk it and wait a little longer so you can get the spots you want cheaper. So I like that part of the game. You may like it, you may not, but that's how it works, and I think it's very cool. The resources, you get a bunch of wood cubes. They're stone, wood, and sand. And again, these cubes are how you're going to be converting into victory points as you're using the materials to build the cathedral, and you're upgrading your craftsmen to be more efficient in doing that. There's also blue cubes that are metal. I think there's one card in the game that will give you 2 metal, but most of the time you've got a place in a spot, the King's Court, that gives you 1 metal. And if you place there first, you're immune from taxes that round, which is important. When you get to that space, it's number 9 on the board. You roll this die, and it tells you how much money and how much gold and taxes you have to pay, every player. Unless they're placed on the King's Court, then they're immune. And it goes from 2 to 5. So it can get costly. Sometimes you might not have enough money and you're worried about not being able to pay your taxes. So you burn one of those master builder pawns on the King's Court to make sure that you don't have to pay those taxes. The first thing on the board that comes up is an event. Now these event cards are neat too, because some of them are very good and some of them are very bad. But there's a spot where you can place a master builder that makes you immune to an event if it's negative. If it's positive, you can choose to still have the positive effect, but you gain 1 resource from the resource market, which is another spot on the board that you can place your master builder, and it allows you to buy or sell any number of the resources that are in the market that you can afford. And up to all players can place there if they want, and it goes in order. Right, so if you place there last and the first 3 players buy everything, you might be stuck. But if you're in one of the first 3 positions, you'll be able to buy something, but maybe not necessarily what you wanted to buy. So the market is pretty cool as well. Then there's the gravel pit, where you place your workers to get gravel, the forest, where you place them to get wood, and the quarry, where you place them to get stone. Then there are privilege cards. The privilege cards are just unique cards that change the game. They give you some cool benefit. Some of them are very good. There's a spot on here, the Priory, where you can place where you just get a victory point or 2 victory points if you place there first. So that's a good spot to just get points. And so that spot is very much in demand throughout the game as well. So you've got that worker placement thing where you're really trying to maximize where you place and place where you need to place before somebody else does. But you've got this extra part where the money that you have is very important, because it allows you to place first in some of the places where you might need to. So very interesting. Now the game also comes with, like I said, these wooden cathedral pieces to build the cathedral. But you're not really building the cathedral. I know some people have complained about that. I still like it. I mean, you're not actually, it's not like you need X number of resources and X number of craftsmen and you can build this piece of the cathedral. It's nothing like that. It's just whoever the first player is gets the next piece, and at the end of the round they place it there no matter what. So it's really just a turn. It's just like a creative turn marker that shows you how far along you are in the game. Also, if you place there, you can become the first player, which could be important as well. So there's a way to become the first player. But it's something they didn't have to include that. They totally did not need to include these wooden pieces, but they did. So it's an extra kind of added just flavor to the game. So all in all, I really like Pillars of the Earth. But let's look at Board Game Geek, as we usually do, and see what some of the people who have rated it think. People that have rated it really low and people that have rated it really high. And let's get a sense of what the fanboys and the haters think about Pillars of the Earth. So the first thing you need to know about Pillars of the Earth, it's currently ranked 156 out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of games currently in the Board Game Geek database. So that's a really high ranking. This is a very popular game. But some people, as with every game, there is some subset of people who hate it. So let's look at what some of those people have to say. Mike says, "Oh my God, could I have been more bored playing a game? Nothing new here. please move along. So, although Mike didn't really tell us much about why it's boring, he gave no specifics, which again is one of the big problems I have with some of these ratings on Board Game Geek. But he does give us some insight. So, I don't know what kind of gamer Mike is, but if you find Euro games dry, if you find them boring, then you're not going to like Pillars of the Earth. If you are somebody who is 100% Ameritrash and you love Ameritrash games and you want conflict and you want player interaction, then this game is not going to be for you. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make a Euro game any less Euro. So if you don't like Euro games, you're not going to like this. Then we have Bill says, an unoriginal, tedious rehash of mechanics from other games. The uninspired building of the Cathedral solely as a turn marker typifies the entire game. Well, I don't understand, they didn't need the turn marker, so if they didn't include the cool Cathedral turn marker, it would be a better game? That doesn't make any sense at all. It would be a less expensive game, maybe, or they could have made more profit on the game if they didn't include it. But it's still cool to have a turn marker where you actually build the Cathedral. I don't understand why people believe you include that. It should be some mechanic behind it to make it more important. No, there's enough in this game where it doesn't need that. This is a worker placement, card drafting mechanic. There are tons of options for players on what they're going to do on their turn. There are a ton of great decision points. And I'll also say I think it has more interaction than most Euro games. All right, because there are those moments where you're, talking with other players, you're pulling people's pawns out of the bag. So I do find, with my groups anyway, that there is more interaction in a game like this than some other Euro games that really do feel more like a multiplayer solitaire game. This has a little bit more, it adds a little bit more than that. But again, if you're a total Ameritrash person, you're not going to like Pillars of the Earth. It's not going to change your mind. All right, so let's look at some of the high ratings for Pillars of the Earth on Board Game Geek. JC rated it a 10. The ones previously rated a 1 or a 2, so very low. But JC gives it a 10, the highest rating you can give a game. And he says, I love this game. A beautiful board, solid components, and a unique theme makes this a crowd pleaser. There's a good amount of player interaction, several unique strategies to pursue, and enough versatility to make every game feel a bit different. The only weaknesses here is that it's tough to stop a leader on that last turn, and the game's many choices mean it's not the best choice for new gamers. So, I think JC touches on a lot of great stuff here. I think, like I said, it has more player interaction than most Euro games, but I wouldn't go so far to say that, hey, if you don't like Euro games, you're going to like this. You're not. It's still truly a Euro. It has several unique strategies to pursue, definitely, and that's something that I enjoy in games. And enough versatility to make every game feel different. That's definitely true. There are cards that you leave out of the game every time you play it, so it's a little different that way. The way the cards come up is different as well. So and the paths you take can be very different. So it is a different game, and you do get some replayability out of it. The not being able to stop the leader on the last turn, I think that can be true, but players need to be positioning themselves well before the last turn, hopefully, before they get to that point. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in this case. And he says the game's many choices mean it's not the best choice for new gamers. I'm on the fence on that. I think you can play this with new gamers precisely because the board is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. So once they learn how to draft the cards, they can just go through one at a time when they resolve the board, and it makes it very easy that way. Now, are they going to get the strategy right off the bat? No, right? That's going to take a few times. But I think this is a game you can introduce to new gamers, especially if you're an experienced gamer and you can walk them through it. If nobody is experienced as a gamer playing this game, it can be daunting unless they're willing to put the time into the rulebook and learn it. And I think it would be worth it. And you can take your time and go one step by step by step. And because of the way it's set up to go through one step at a time, it makes it much more accessible than a lot of Euro games are. So I'm not sure I agree with that either. And then we have another 10. Patrick says, the ultimate worker placement game. Absolutely adore Pillars of the Earth. The beautiful board, the components are top-notch, the gameplay is uniquely original. The only issue I have with the game now is that no one will play it with me anymore. My number 2 ranked game. So I think with a lot of designer games like this, they get old, right? The new stuff comes in. You've got that cult of the new going on, and games that were great and were the buzz kind of fall by the wayside and are not played as much as they used to be. But that could be a good thing if you haven't played some of these games like Pillars of the Earth before. It's a good time. You can probably find it cheaper than the new games. It's definitely worth having in your collection. It's definitely worth pulling back off the shelf. If you haven't played it in a while, I just played it again this past weekend after a long hiatus of not playing it. And we had a great time. I played it with players who hadn't played it before, and they loved it. You know, we really enjoyed it. It was a very close game all the way through. You really get that feeling that you're building a cathedral throughout the game. A lot of great decision points. I really, really enjoyed it. Enough player interaction to keep people involved with each other. So it was just it was a great experience. So, I mean, that one game was worth the price tag for me to play. Hopefully, it'll be worth it for you as well. I highly recommend that you try Pillars of the Earth. Unless if you are only a Ameritrash person and you don't like Euro games, then don't go near it. There's nothing here that's going to change your mind and make you love it. If you're one of the people who hate the turn markers here, come on, stop whining about the turn markers. It's cool. It's cool to be able to build a cathedral, even though there's no mechanics behind using them and building them. If there's no mechanics behind it, you shouldn't include something cool like that and novel. I like it, so I don't think that's a point that should even be discussed as a negative with this game. Components, like I said, they're beautiful, and everybody that has rated this high agrees. Beautiful components, beautiful art, great graphic design. It's a high quality game, and it deserves to be played. So my name is Robert Burke. I hope you enjoyed this review of Pillars of the Earth, and we'll be back again soon with episode number 37. Bye.